Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday, happy midweek hump day, and welcome to all of you in the 850. We're here again with Eating the Elephant, our Hurricane Michael recovery tips and insurance information. I think we're on part 14. We're more than 2 months out, and I have quite a bit to talk to you about this evening. First is my very favorite phrase that I learned this week, and I can't remember who said something about it on Facebook. But my favorite phrase this week is Mad Max trucks. If you've ever seen the movie Mad Max, you know exactly the kind of trucks I'm talking about. And whoever it is that gave me that phrase, I'm going to completely steal it. I think that's the most wonderful phrase ever. I'd been calling them FEMA trucks, but Mad Max trucks is just so much more descriptive. I'm kind of excited today. Today's a good day in the Hutt household because we had reindeer paws on our roof today. We got us a brand new roof, and I'm hoping that all of you have had reindeer visits as well. And if you haven't, hopefully you'll get them very shortly. But I always thought it would be a little disturbing and a little annoying to have people banging on my roof with hammers. But I have to tell you, it was a pretty good sound today. It's sort of become where's my check season. There's an awful lot of folks out there that I think have gone through a good bit of the process. If you've got some luck, you found a contractor, you've begun, you've kind of gotten your wheels in gear, you've had some success, you've talked to both your contractor and your adjuster, and you have people moving in the same direction. So where's my check? Where's my money? I think that's where a lot of us are. And I think if you're in that spot, I think one of the things you need to do is what we keep talking about. Talk to your agent. If necessary, talk to the Department of Financial Services, but mostly talk to your adjuster. And when you ask them where your check is, it's not good enough to say, well, I've asked for that check or it's in process. Ask them exactly where it is. Ask them, has it been issued? Has it been approved? How many levels of approval does it take? Has it been mailed? What method was it mailed? Oh, it's FedEx. Oh, great. Can you give me that tracking number? I think it's absolutely appropriate that you pin people down for details right this minute. I think that's always been appropriate, but I think now, especially when you're waiting for money to come in, you need to pin people down and say, how much is the check for? What's the check number? What's the tracking number so I can know when FedEx or UPS or the U.S. Mail Service is going to bring it to my door? Very, very important, I think. I wanted to reach out and I want to give someone credit that I think has been undercredited. It's not my wife this time. I don't think she ever gets enough credit, and I think I could do these segments about her every time. But I wanted to give some thanks to Pat Sabiston. Pat Sabiston has taught me a great deal about how this storm works and about how the process works, because she's been willing to sort of let me inside of her claims process. She's not my client. Although she and I work together a good bit, she helps me with advertising and scripting and things such as that. She's a wonderful, wonderful resource for all things in the promotional and PR world. But it's been interesting to be able to watch it from her point of view, because she's very direct with me and very helpful in helping me understand how it looks from the other side of the camera. So I really do appreciate Pat's work. I appreciate her advice, and I appreciate her point of view with her claim. Things are going much better for her than they were at the outset. And again, Pat, thank you for all that you've done to help us. I would also like to thank all of you out there in Facebook world. One thing I've noticed an awful lot about is that there was an awful lot of silliness on Facebook. Not that there's not still some silliness on Facebook. But with regard to hurricane recovery and in several of the groups that I'm involved in, I've seen an awful lot more rational, solid advice. A lot of what we saw over the past 8 weeks has been people either pitching a product, people stumping for business, people, unfortunately, sometimes privateering. But a lot of what I've seen lately is people saying, look, calm down, step back, think of what you're saying, and think about the process. Let's walk through this. And I'm seeing much, much more of that than I did. And I'm seeing a lot more reasoned response and a lot more rational behavior and a lot less panic. And I have to tell you, that gives me really good feelings, and it gives me an awful lot of hope for where we're going here up in the 850 in Bay County. And I'm more and more encouraged the more I read on Facebook. I know that may sound funny to some of you, but I have seen an awful lot more people step in when things may be getting a little out of hand and say, hey, look, let's step back. Let's look at this rationally, and let's look at the process for recovery for talking to your insurance company and just sort of generally sort of settling the mood. Panic is easy. Scaling up the excitement level on Facebook certainly gets you more likes and it gets you more attention, but it's not going to help us with the recovery. Those of you that can be articulate and can be calm and be rational and can spread that word across social media will be very helpful to Bay County, and I hope you'll continue to do so. I want to talk a little bit now about the kind of topics that we normally talk about. This is not specifically an insurance thing, but a lot of folks have started squealing on social media about utility bills that can be, frankly, a little bit outrageous. And I have to agree, when you haven't had power in a month, or if you haven't had internet service in 2 or 3 months, and you get a bill, that can be very frustrating. A lot of the utilities, I've heard Lynn Haven Utilities in particular is using this method. They're sending you a bill for what your average usage is. Our Lynn Haven office has been shut since the storm, and we're still getting a bill, or we were still getting a bill for water, sewer, garbage, all of that at about 70, 80 bucks a month, I want to say, for nothing whatsoever. They haven't picked up our trash, and we certainly weren't using any water. So for those of you that either are not in your building, or you're looking at a bulldozer maybe down the blade, seriously think about calling your utility companies, whether it's cable, power, water, whatever, and cutting those utilities off. There's no sense in paying for utilities that you don't need. You can always turn them back on later. Now, if you are still there, if your property is still a construction site, you probably don't want to turn off the power or the water. But again, if you want to reduce your bills a little bit, then that's certainly an option. I also want to talk a little bit about FEMA and SBA, and I want to give you a little caveat. I'm not a FEMA guy. I'm not an SBA guy. I'm an insurance guy. But we've been given some advice, and we've been hearing from clients, particularly those that come through the help desk. We've heard a lot of really good information from our own clients. When it comes to FEMA, we were getting some very discouraging information early on that they weren't as helpful as we had hoped they would be with individual folks. They've been very good about picking up debris, and they coordinate very, very well, as we understand, with municipalities and institutions. But with individuals, they were not being quite as helpful, and people were being sort of summarily dismissed, is what we understand. If you've gone through the process of FEMA or SBA, FEMA may still not be willing to help you, but one of the things that we've been told is if you're denied by FEMA, appeal. And once you have the appeal process, if you're denied, appeal again. Because if you are in a position where you're denied denied assistance from FEMA, really all you have to do is get to that one person that can take some exception to what's going on and have some compassion and help you through the process, as opposed to somebody that's checking a box. I think this is probably solid advice. I think you'll have to make an individual decision as to whether you're going to invest your time and energy, which we all know is limited these days. But we have been given that advice, and some people have reached some success. SBA is a little bit different beast, and I wanted to give you a couple of warnings. I personally do not know how the SBA process works specifically. However, there have been a couple of things that have been brought to us, in that if you go out and you get an SBA loan, you're going to have to assign your benefits. We've talked about assignment of benefits. If you haven't heard me rail about it, then please look at one of our previous segments. But SBA requires you to assign insurance benefits. And the way we understand this to work is that if you get a $100,000 SBA loan, and then later on you get $50,000 in insurance proceeds, those $50,000 in insurance proceeds don't go to you, they go to SBA to reduce the principal amount on your loan. That's the way we understand the process to work. If any of you out there in the 850 are expert in this field, I would really appreciate you reaching out to me and letting me know a little bit more about how the process works, so that we can turn that information over to the general public. I think people have been intimidated by the SBA process, and a lot of people don't understand that you can go to regular banks and talk to a loan officer who may understand that process better. So again, if you have some understanding, that we do not, I would really appreciate you passing that on to me, because I would certainly like to learn more about it. One other thing that involves the federal government and federal government programs that I would like for you guys to know about is the way flood rules work. Most of you probably are not in what they call a high-risk flood zone. Most of you are probably in a Zone X. Everybody is in a flood zone. It's just a matter of what flood zone you're in. And if you are in what's called a special flood hazard area, your lender will require you to carry flood insurance. If you get an SBA loan, you're going to be required to carry federal flood insurance regardless of the flood zone that you're in. And the other issue that we have is that you need to pay very close attention to your reconstruction, because if you're in an older area of town, if your home was built, say, in the 80s in particular, if your home is substantially damaged, more than 50% in particular, you're going to have to bring your home up not only to current code, but the flood rules, the flood maps in your area may have changed, and the required elevation of your home may now be a foot or two above where your home is built. If your home was built, say, in 1988, just as an example, and the new flood rules now in your neighborhood require you to be built at 4 feet above base flood elevation, and you're built at +2, that could be a problem. I don't want to drag us into the math and into the weeds too much, but I would suggest you give us a call, or call FEMA, call your agent, call your adjuster, call your insurance company. You need to ask an awful lot of questions about flood insurance and the requirements of your specific property address before you get into the reconstruction process, if it's at all possible, particularly if you have damage of more than 50% of the value of your home. I want to give you one last warning before I leave you with a couple of phone numbers that we always like to leave with, and that is that the mitigation costs that you are undertaking come out of your Coverage A dwelling amount. The short version of that is, if you have $250,000 in coverage on your home, that's the dwelling amount, and a mitigation contractor comes in to dry the place out, maybe cut out some drywall, things like that, they invariably will tell you that we're only going to charge you what the insurance company will allow. Well, that's fantastic, but if they charge you $200,000 to do that mitigation work, then it only leaves you $50,000 to do the reconstruction. We have seen mitigation bills in 7 figures. That's for drying out, cutting out drywall, pulling out flooring, things such as that. So those mitigation bills can be very, very significant. So be very, very careful about what you agree to with your mitigation contractor. And as I always advise, do not, under any circumstances, sign an assignment of benefits. And if you have any questions about that, you can look at our Facebook page. You can go to the Department of Financial Services webpage and look at their advice as well. We've posted some information from there, but I would encourage you to do your own homework before you sign an assignment of benefits. And again, my advice is just don't sign one. There's no necessity for you to give your homeowner's policy rights to someone else. We'll take it there. We'll come back to you on Sunday, and that'll be our last one for a little bit. We're going to give everybody a little bit of a Christmas break, but I want to give you 2 numbers that we always do. The first is our free public help desk. We help all of our clients at whatever level we possibly can from 9 to 5. After hours, from 4 to 6 actually, we have a free public help desk. If you will text or call and leave a message at 850-273-9356, then we'll be glad to help you. We don't ask for anything. We don't ask for a fee. You don't have to sign anything. We don't want any money. We don't want anything but to help you. The other number that I want to give you is the Department of Financial Services. You can call 1-800-22-STORM, and you can get help from the Department of Financial Services. These are public employees. They cost you nothing. They can walk you through the process. They can assist you, and they can provide you with mediation assistance as well. The mediation process is free for you if you can't come to an agreement with your insurance company, and it won't cost you 10% that you're going to have to give to a public adjuster or an attorney. Their number, if the 800 number doesn't work, and we understand there have been some issues there, you can also call 850-413-3089. Thanks very much for listening and staying with us. Those of you, again, that are posting positive things to Facebook, please continue to do so, and we will see you this weekend.